seeing as how we're getting extremely close to college football, I would like down to break. I would like now. Oh man, I ruined my own intro. I would look now, like now, to break down
Good grief. This is the Big 12.
a stroke. The best conference in the land, Big 12 football.
The best.
So,
I can't even get the intro right.
Over the next couple weeks, Jim and Muff will break down their Big 10. So I inserted my own Big 12 breakdown. Some brief notes, starting with Baylor. The defending Big 12 champs have lost some key defensive players, but they still have a decent offensive line, returning to protect quarterback Blake Shapen. We have the University of Oklahoma with Brent Venables taking the helm as head coach after his run as defensive coordinator at Clemson, and Lincoln Riley has departed to USC. They only returned 9 starters. They lost Caleb Williams to USC, and they lost Spencer Rattler also to USC, but a different USC, the South Carolina Gamecocks. They have Dylan Gabriel leading the charge as a transfer from UCF, throwing.
Oh boy,
this is like his 8th season.
Yeah, probably. I think 9. I'm just kidding. Throwing to what appears to will be his go-to wideout, Marvin Mims, who averaged 22 yards per catch last season. So I think Oklahoma's big thing is they usually
had 3 catches.
Whose segment is this? Mine or yours?
Sorry, go ahead.
Oklahoma generally doesn't have a super defense compared to their offense. So it'll be interesting with Brent Venables to come. Can they balance it out?
Nobody has a super defense. This is the Big 12.
I'm going to buzz you. I should have done this during quick thoughts where I had the power. Oklahoma State, 5 returning defensive starters, so they'll definitely need to rebuild their defense. They'll have quarterback Spencer Sanders. Texas goes into Steve Sarkisian's second year as head coach after going 5-7 last year.
And receiving a first place vote in the preseason polls.
One.
Yeah, not great. They weren't a strong defense.
Whoever voted for that was probably drunk. Wink, wink.
They will have quarterback Quinn Ewers, who said Ohio State sucks ass. I'm going to Texas. Sorry, that felt good. I had to get it out. And running back John Robinson to round out a solid offense. They also retain receivers Xavier Worthy and Isaiah Nair. Kansas State has running back Deuce Vaughn and quarterback Adrian Martinez, who's a transfer from Nebraska.
Also in his 7th season in college football.
In his fifth season, he has been known to throw a lot of interceptions, though, and they only have 2 starters returning to their offensive line, so I have some concern there.
So does Kansas State. They got Martinez.
Iowa State brings back 8 starters. Quarterback Hunter Deckers replaces Brock Purdy, and running back Jarrell Brock will replace Breece Hall. And they return a wideout, Xavier Hutchinson. TCU has a new coach in Sonny Dykes from SMU. Gary Patterson left last year, and this will be the first head coach change at TCU since 2000. They returned running back Keandre Miller and wide receiver Quentin Johnson. The defense was pretty bad last year, but they're returning a lot of talent, and with some experience and a new defensive coordinator, like to see some improvement. Nothing from the peanut gallery on that one.
So are we allowed? Okay. If we're talking about TCU, are we allowed to say horns down to them without getting fined? Since they're the Horned Frogs.
That's a good point.
They don't have the same kind of horns, Buff.
Horned Frog down.
But
Frog smash.
What if we did this at a TCU game? Are we going to get in trouble?
Well, yeah, you can't do the horns down.
They have like a lot of horns. So I feel like you have to be like,
whoa. What was the cupping motion we just did from the?
Well, I was doing like all of the horns on the frog's back.
It looked like you were cupping. Let's move on to Texas Tech.
Texas Tech. First-time head coach Joey McGuire, who does know Texas football. He was a head coach in a high school in Texas, and he also was an assistant at Baylor. Texas Tech.
Yeah, that sounds like a great resume. I coached high school football. I could do this.
High school football in Texas is a hell of a lot better than high school football in a lot of other states. So
that's true. I'll give you that. I retract that statement.
Okay. Running back duo.
I got paid more money there too.
I know, right? Running back duo Sir Roderick Thompson and Taj Brooks will lead the offense. The defense will need some more work this year. I feel like
running theme in the Big 12. Defense needs work.
I know. I should have just not mentioned. I should have done a Big 12 offensive review. Kansas, last season, they actually ended up with some bangs. They upset Texas in November and then ended up losing to TCU by 1 score and WVU by 1 score. So they left the season with some momentum. They're returning 16 starters. They picked up a couple of good defensive players in the transfer portal and have some solid returning pieces. Could this be the year that they get out of last place?
Yes. They will.
I agree. Yep.
There we go.
That man's building something down there.
I know.
I'm not saying he's building a champion, but he's building something.
Something that's not a last place contender.
Right.
And last, but certainly not least, the West Virginia University Mountaineers. Neil Brown heads into this season after being 17 and 18 in the last 3 seasons. I don't want to say it, but he might be on the hot seat this year. They only returned. Jim, just F off.
Isn't this a thing? Don't we do this?
Yeah, they're for the kickoff.
First down.
Hey, we found our key.
WU. First down. They only have 3 defensive starters returning. The defense will be led by Dante Stills. They have quarterback JT Daniels, a transfer from Georgia, that will be protected by 5 returning O-line starters, led by the new offensive coordinator, Graham Harrell, who does know JT Daniels from their time at USC, and a good receiving core, including Sam James, Bryce Ford-Wheaton, and Caden Prather. At running back, they have a Clemson transfer in Lynn J. Dixon and will return Tony Mathis. So I think we have a really good offense, Bruin. And hopefully, Dante Stills is good, and we can get a couple more defensive guys to step up. Might have something special here.
Alex.
Something special. Ooh.
Jim, lick my butthole.
No, hold on. Whoa. Alex. From this breakdown.
I feel like that's like the 3rd time I've had to say that to him.
Alex, from this breakdown, and I know there might be some bias in here, but there is no reason why WVU should not win the Big 12.
Texas, duh.
They're supposed to be there's no clear winner. The problem is right now in the Big 12, there's no clear that's who's going to win the Big 12. I think it's almost anyone's conference outside of Kansas, no offense. But
Alex,
I'm just saying, don't hype me up, Jim, because I'm going to start believing it. I'm going to get disappointed. I can't do that to myself again.
Oklahoma just had to fire their defensive coordinator for some bad things he said. And they don't really have a quarterback. Texas has Sarkisian, and they might have a quarterback stable, but they don't have a defense. They're not well-rounded.
Well, and WVU they could have a really good offense. If JT Daniels stays healthy and plays prime JT Daniels, those receivers are really good. Our running game will be fine, and Graham Harrell's not going to be a bad offensive coordinator.
Depending on what time of year you run into Iowa State, to me, that's the only threat to WVU. Excuse me.
Yeah, but Iowa State, I'm not as high up on them without Breece Hall and Brock Purdy there anymore.
Yeah,
personally, I'm not saying they won't have a solid team.
Year.
You're saying later in the year is bad once they've had time to establish themselves.
All I'm saying is winning season this year for WVU.
Okay,
in a bowl.
That's setting the bar pretty low. Buddy.
In a bowl.
I think Alex is staying below the radar on this one.
Yes, because every year, if I get too amped up, never good.
You can tell it's a Big 12 fan right there.
You have to start learning, not to disappoint yourself on purpose.
Real question I have, Alex. Are we going to go to a game this year?
I'm in. I'm always down.
Jim will not be joining.
I will not be caught dead in Morgantown.
I'd go to an Ohio State game.
That's great because that's a real team.
Oh,
I retract my statement.
Alex would no longer be participating in an Ohio State trip. In fact, Alex may no longer be coming to Columbus when we come to.
I will not be caught dead in Morgantown. I will go to Happy Valley. I will go to a Penn State game any day of the week.
Why would you not be caught dead in Morgantown? I don't understand.
It's not a real state, Alex.
Well, okay. I feel like we've just reached a new Alex has to wipe off the camera just to make sure that Alex has said done. And that wraps up this year's Big 12 breakdown.